Hey guys, how's it going? Danny Fitzer here, and today I'm going to be quickly showing you a Oni-Goroshi Molten Strike Raider that I've been playing recently. And kind of a funny story how this character actually came together. But I think it's at a point where it should be released to the wild, and all the professional PoE players, not including me, obviously, I'm terrible, can go and fix the build and make it actually decent. So I'm just going to play some T16 footage real quick. There's the map, so you can pause there quickly when you can see what's on it, what's on my atlas and stuff. I put a kept Maven on it. I'm going to be brutally honest right now. This guy shouldn't really be doing T16, and also sorry for the quality. I shadow played this, so I wouldn't have to play and talk, because it's kind of hard to play and talk and remember what you want to talk about. It looks really choppy. I don't know. I need to fix my shadow play. It's like 15 frames gameplay, I'm sorry. But as long as you get an idea of what it looks like with the old Celestial MTX there as well, looking sick as hell. So this is just a T16 Wasteland. I think I did a couple of the rituals. I did a Blight, obviously kill the boss with Maven on it. It wasn't the smoothest map I've ever done, but I didn't die or anything. But obviously, like, almost there. Like, you can see, like, this character, even though it's a raider and we are supposed to be dodge based, for some reason we take a lot of hits. And that's the one downside about this build that obviously I want to fix. So I'll get around to how I'm going to do that and what I plan on doing next. Like always, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know it's more just like here's what I'm playing, here's what I plan on doing, here's what you could do, and then here's a couple of crazy ideas maybe for the more expensive boys out there who want to just go ham on it. And then, you know, I just show you everything I'm using, so you can either copy it and then improve, or just straight up copy it. I wouldn't straight up copy this one because, like I said, the defense is extremely shit at the moment. We definitely need to fix that. If I fix that, I think this build's gonna be really good. So the reason why we're using Oni-Goroshi and Raider, rather than, you know, maybe just going Chieftain or something and just fixing the whole Oni-Goroshi situation in like one Ascendancy point, is just because of the amount of attack speed you get on Raider now. Oni-Goroshi is one of those weapons where it scales, the damage scales itself, right? So the main things you need on an Oni-Goroshi build is attack speed. Attack speed is really strong because you're getting a lot of damage, and you're getting obviously the buff that gives you like Fizzes extra and all that crap, and it gives you even some more attack speed as well. So like having an insane attack speed with an Oni-Goroshi is like insane damage. Which is what Raider gets now with all the Onslaught memes. We're also stacking Frenzies, so we're going the Frenzy route. I think you could literally pick any point on the Raider tree, the Ascendancy tree, and it would be correct. I think if you went the other way with the one with the, you have always phasing, so you have more dodge, and then you have the, you lower their resistance when you're near them, you lower their accuracy, and you're immune to ailments. Honestly, I think that over the Frenzies might be the play, but I think the Onslaught, even though it's a bit of a meme, is the play here. But it depends how you gear up, because obviously if you stack Frenzies, you can also get a lot of attack speed from that, and they also give you more damage. But what I wanted to do with the Raider was essentially just be as fast as fuck, as you can see, by basically just having a few Frenzies up, and then you can just run around at like 200 move speed with a flask up. It's pretty fun, it's pretty satisfying gameplay. And obviously with the attack speed as well, you feel pretty nimble. Like you can leap slam and you can attack and cancel the attack straight away, even with multi-strike really fast. It just feels like you're playing like a very responsive and quick build, and that's my playstyle. I love it. Like I said, the damage is insane, and the potential for like single target as well is insane with the hydrosphere memes, which we'll talk about in a minute. Basically, if you don't know, you can use hydrosphere to... Nowadays, if you use Molten Strike, you don't proc the balls unless you hit something. The new Hydrosphere skill, you can put down, hit it, and it will make balls, right? So if you hit it next to a boss, look at this, double T16 Blight map, quite nice. If you hit it next to a boss and you have any sort of additional strike, you can hit the orb and the boss and create two sets of balls to drop on the boss, which is why Molten Strike does so much single target, because you get the hit and all the balls landing on the dude. Gachi. So we'll just close that now. We've seen that. And so obviously we're just going to talk about the gear. So what I'm talking about with the Hydrosphere is normally, look, you swing now, nothing happens. If I swing at this, we get balls and we get to see our MTX that we paid for. It's really cool. So you do that on a boss, and if you have at least one additional strike, we're using Ancestral Call at the moment, I think, in our setup. So we get 2 by default, but you can get Tribal's Fury from the tree, which is down here. Gets an additional strike. You can also get Warlord Gloves, or is it Hunter Gloves, that have an additional strike. I think for my build at the moment, I'm probably going to go for the +1 Frenzy and drop the boots. But like I said, I'll talk about all those changes and things that I plan on doing as I go in. And we're just scrolling on this guy. It looks pretty cool, man. Look, we're just a bull build, man. Just bulls everywhere, dude. If you like bulls, this is the build for you. All right, we're just going to go over the all the gear, the links, then the tree, plus Ascendancy and all that, and then I'll do my usual thing. Right, let's do this. Right, so we'll start with the weapon. Obviously, the whole build is centered around the Oni-Goroshi. The Oni-Goroshi is an insane unique. You can level with it, because you can put it on at level 1. It scales with level. It gives you flat fizz per level. And it also, the buff it gives you, which is probably the main thing that this thing is so strong with, in combination with the high crit chance. As you can see, we got a max roll one here, 90%. You get 9.5 base crit to scale from. So getting crit on this build is quite easy compared to most other builds. Normally the highest you can get is like 8. I think even Slayer has one that just means you have 8 base crit. A lot of swords even are down into like the 6s and 7s. This thing has 9.5 of max roll, so insane. It gives you a bunch of accuracy. You can't Vaal Orb them, but watch out if you get Resolute Technique and you're trying to do a crit build. You literally can't do that. So just be careful when you buy one. You don't get corrupted one with Resolute Technique. It's a very popular mistake newbies will make. It uses both slots, so you can't use like a shield or anything. That is one downside, and it also doesn't count as dual wielding, so you can't take dual wielding nodes. It is still a one-handed sword, just you can't use the other slot. And it makes sense because of how powerful it is. So obviously you get 2 to 3 fizz per level. So obviously the more levels you have, the more damage you get. By the time you're about 90, I mean, like I said, you can level this, so you're basically just getting damage per level, and it's insane. It's so easy to level this thing, and it's always 6 linked. It's like a hidden stat on here. You are permanently, you've always got a 6 link on it, so you can't buy one without it being linked. So you don't even have to have a tab or anything. So, and apparently you get off. Well, like I say, apparently I know you get off Hillock if you kill him at like when you're level 7 or something on the beach, but it takes hours. Just let the bots farm it and buy it for cheap. It's gonna be very cheap now because bots just farm these up. So I bought mine for like 2x because it's a max roll one. You could easily buy one for a lot cheaper and maybe get some lucky divines in there if you farm some yourself. But the main takeaway for this item, other than those cool unique things, to be honest, I mean the whole sword's unique to be honest, and it is a proper unique weapon, is the Her Embrace for 3 seconds when you ignite an enemy. So what that does, it means you cannot be stunned, which is bloody lovely. 123 of the sword's physical damage gained as extra fire damage. So once you've leveled up quite a lot, that is a huge damage increase. It's almost like over doubling your damage. You're unaffected by burning ground. You're immune to freeze, chill, and ignite. So you're basically immune to ailments. Most ailments anyway. You're not immune to shock, I suppose. And then you have increased attack, cast, and move speed. Basically an onslaught effect, but it's not considered onslaught. So this stacks with onslaught. Hence why the Raider, I think, is so strong with this, because you get all that attack speed just for free. And obviously the downside of all this juice is that you take a massive degen to your energy shield of max life per second per level as well. It's 0.5 of your total life per level. So we're level 90 now. So that's almost doing like 40% of our life per second. And you might be like, bloody hell, that'll kill you in like 2 seconds. Well, it scales off your defense, right? So we have 75 fire res, so we're taking reduced damage there. You can obviously get things on your gear that would then take that fire damage and put it elsewhere and make it a little bit more easable to manage. We manage it by leeching and life regen, so just naturally overcoming the degen that we're taking. And we do that using Vitality, which is at level like, I don't even know what level that is now. Quite high level now, 17, 15. I think we might need to sort the mana situation out. It's a little bit low. We need a little bit more mana to play with, I think. But yeah, we're basically out-genning it. There are some situations where it might tick down if you have some sort of debuff on you that or you're in a less regen map. Like no regen maps are a no-go for this guy because you're just going to slowly die. The worst thing about this is not that you'll tick to 0, because as long as you're in the fight, you'll stay up full. But it's when you're like transitioning to another pack and you have the buff on and you don't have enough regen to like out-regen it. Just like using Vile Pact, you just slowly die. And once you jump in, if you take any sort of a hit then, you just die because you're on like fucking below 50% life. It's kind of pathetic. I mean, you could use a Star Conjures instead of an Abyss if you want to be tankier, but I think an Abyss is just too strong to pass up, unfortunately. But yeah, that is why we're using an Oni-Goroshi. Very cool, very, very unique item to build around. So any sort of fire damage build that scales with Fizz Fire, I would definitely try to make this work with it. It's an extremely fun item, and it is a unique weapon. We need more unique weapons like this. It's so cool. I've tried to make so many builds with this. This is the only one that's really like popped off, I'd say. I did try a Wild Strike build with this. I didn't get very far. I think it was more the Ascendancy I picked for it. It was a Slayer, so I was trying to overleech to, get rid of the DGM. So the next item I suppose we should talk about is the Abyssus. Oh, I hate this item. I love this item and I hate it. It adds so much damage. Unlike Path of Building, with like reasonable boxes ticked, like having all my frenzies up which are permanently up, all that kind of stuff. This thing adds about 50% more damage. And the reason why it adds that so much damage is because it adds so much flat damage, which is then being scaled by all our Fizzes Extra. Although the Fizzes Extra on the sword dimension is only the Fizz from the sword. It's not a generic Fizzes Extra, so this doesn't actually benefit from that. But then also the 100 up to 125% multi, because we have a lot of crit to scale off of. That multi is huge. But the downside, obviously, with Abyssus is you take increased Fizz damage. We are more an evasion dodge based build, so it's not that much of a problem, but it only becomes a problem when your evasion and all that fails you, and then you get dick smashed. I don't know. It's just that I'm so strong for damage, and the downside is so much of a pain in the ass. It's just like, and there's so many cool helmets you can craft now. It feels like every melee build needs to use this one or the other one, the replica, which is just, I don't know. It's too strong. I think like the melee and maybe the flat fizz needs to be toned down by like, honestly, like even half, maybe a little bit less than half, but or maybe just get it quite hard and maybe remove the restriction of the fizz damage and do something maybe a little bit cooler with that. I don't know. It's just every melee build, or you just slap an Abyssus on you like, I have to use this. It's too much damage, unfortunately. But you can use a Star Conjures here, and you can also use a very nice crafted helmet. I don't really know off the top of my head. I guess like nearby enemies have lower fire res. It's going to be really strong for single target. We do need penetration in this build. So yeah. Then we're using a Zoth's Blood. Because we're using Avatar of Fire, we're converting the rest of the Molten Strike Fizz damage into fire. With Avatar of Fire, this also means any other like cold or lightning damage we have is getting 50% conversion to fire, so it's not completely wasted. Because you deal no non-fire damage with this thing as well. But this amulet's really strong as well, because not only does it doesn't have any dead stats on it, like a lot of uniques sometimes that you use just for certain things. You get a chunk of strength, which is nice. We get an increased strength. Obviously, strength is life as well. We get an increased life. We get some nice resists there, so it's a little bit easier to fill our resists out. We get 10 damage pen, and then we get to cover enemies in ash, which, if you don't know, is essentially a 20% more damage, because it's a 20% increased fire damage taken when they're covered in ash, which is when you hit them. So as soon as you hit them, you're then doing 20% more damage on anyone. And since it's our only source of increase taken on a mob, it's essentially a 20% more damage multiplier. So insane amulet, quite cheap as well. We've anointed freedom of movement on it just purely so we can like run through mobs and stuff. As a melee guy, when you're in the middle of, you're in the fray, you really don't want to be creep blocked or minion blocked, whatever you want to call it. You definitely just want to be able to get the hell out of that. Also gives you some more evasion, dodge, and move speed. So like, freedom of movement is such a cheap anoint. I put on everything, honestly. You can almost grab it here because we're so close, but there are some other stronger options, and depending on how you when I talk about the tree, there are some options. Say if you were to go more to the left side of the tree and drop a lot of this side, there's things like Forces of Nature you could put on there. You could put Assassination on there. If you don't end up going here at all, you can end up putting Fatal Play, which is an insane anoint for how cheap it is. You know, Ambidextrous is pretty strong because you're just going to get the straight up 50% attack damage because we're using our main hand. The Ancestral War Chief one's pretty good because we're using both War Chiefs, so 50% effect of those. Insanely strong. I guess Blade Master's not too bad. Disembarring's really strong for the tree I'm using. This is probably best in slot for just pure damage, for crit and multi. If you want to be tankier, I guess you could go like this or Golem's Blood. Maybe don't if you're not spec down here. Obviously we're frenzy stacking, so we have to at least go up to the frenzies. But yeah, obviously you can make a very nice amulet these days with like fizzes extra, multi, flat fizz on it, life, some nice attributes. That's about it really. Those are the ones I'd go for. Then for our chest, we're using a King Scooty. I have no idea how you say it. I just mean when I say it now, so I've actually forgotten how you say it properly. Basically this one. Yes. It's about 1 to 2x, which is surprising for a unique that's unlinked. So obviously it's very good. And the reason why it's so good is because you take 20% less damage if you haven't been hit recently. So if you're stacking evasion and dodge, eventually when you dodge and evasion lets you down, you get hit, you take 20% less damage. In combination with Wind Dancer, I think this is why it's so strong, you take another 20% less. These don't just add together and give you 40% less, it's 20% less, another 20% less. So it actually works out more than 40, I believe. But obviously the downside is on this one that you get a lot less evasion by default when you haven't been hit. So your evasion lies a lot lower, and we're not really stacking it too hard in this build. So without our flask up, we don't actually have too much defense. In terms of evasion, it's 5k, so we only have 26% chance. With our flask up though, it goes up to 14k, and obviously once we eventually do get hit, we have the 50% increased here, and then you get 20. Is it 20 or 40%? You get 20% more here, so we go up to like probably like 30k, 35k evasion when we do get hit. So once again, then we have loads of evade, so it kind of like just switches back and forth between damage mitigation and then being able to just dodge everything a lot. I think a well-crafted chest is going to be better here. We really need to get our life pool up to be able to take hits anyway. I think Wind Dancer on its own, plus like a nice juicy life chest with some like power charge, chance to generate power charge on crit, or what else can you get? You can get Explodey chest, would be really nice on this build with Avatar Fire and all that fizzes extra and stuff. You'll probably be able to get that to hit pretty hard and cleave for you. I wouldn't recommend attack crit because we have so much crit anyway, but I suppose if you're low on crit, you could look into that. Maybe Consecrated Ground, if you're stationary, might be alright as well. If you get that under the boss as well, so they take like increased. They have increased crit on them. Additional Curse, so you can have Assassin's Mark and LE Weakness, or Flammability and Assassin's Mark. You know, there's a lot of options for the chest, so I don't think this is best. I think you can definitely craft something way better than this. But for now, I just wanted to try it. I've never done the Wind Dancer King Scooty memes, so I was trying it. I think I don't have enough evasion and dodge in this build for it to be super effective. I think if you went full dodge and maybe you took this node as well, so you have like a bunch of 15% plus all these, it would start becoming very strong, because then you'd definitely be dodging a lot of stuff, and this would always be up for like when you take the big hit, rather than when you go into a boss you just get absolutely fucking rained down on by like 1,000 projectiles, and then you know all this shit's down and it's not doing its job, so at that point it's kind of not pointless, you know. But at least it gives you a lot of life, gives you some resists. You know, there's no death stats on this chest as well, which makes it very nice. So you know, we'll see what happens in the future. Then we're just using a accuracy, bit of life, resist ring, just to fill out a resist. As you can see, we're very low on the cold res, but I do have a really nice Assassin's Mark ring that I need to put on this guy. That's on my other character. Crafted it. It's got like big life. It's got like T1 life, level 12 Assassin's Mark on hit. I think it has some cold damage on it, but it's kind of pointless. And then like open suffix, so we can put some sort of resist or something on it. So that'd be quite nice. And then this ring's here purely just for some life and resists. I had to fill out my resists. I was using a Mark of the Elder plus a Shaper ring. I think a Mark of the Elder with an Assassin's Mark Shaper ring is probably one of your best in slot setups if you can afford to lose the resists. I think if you get like a better chest, and you can get like some resist on your chest, then you definitely do it. Because you can see we're very unique heavy here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 uniques, which, I mean, but they all have like fire res on, and that's the problem. They don't have like different reses. I mean, this has lightning res on it. I lied. I mean, at least they've got a little bit of res, but you're definitely going to be running out of space to get your resistances. So I guess if you have an additional curse, I would definitely get a Hunter LE weakness or just a standard flammability curse on hit ring paired with an Assassin's Mark ring. I think that could be really strong. Or you could even go defensive and get like temp chains or something. That's entirely up to you. That could be the play though as melee. Maybe get some more defense. Then our gloves, we just got some accuracy, some resists, and then we got the temple mod with the added damage against burning enemies. We're obviously igniting enemies to get the proc, so we get all this added damage. It's quite nice. I would probably, I know what I'm going to do eventually. I think I'm going to drop the boots and get another +1 frenzy on some warlord gloves instead. But you can also get an additional strike glove, so you could awaken orb, additional strike and frenzy if you want to go big dick. And then you can have some really nice gloves, and then you anoint tribal fury, and you essentially can take out ancestral cool. So you save a link, but this at 20 doesn't give you like any damage, like loss. But you would gain a whole gem slot, right? So you still gain like 40 to 50% more damage by doing that, and you don't lose too much. So if you want to go big dick, I'd definitely do that, but I would definitely go probably more for the +1 frenzy if you're going to do the frenzy stacking, because you know frenzies give us like 10% more damage per frenzy with all the buffs we get from them right now, and they give us move speed, which is nice. So then we just got like some resist life. And then a big LE damage, T1 actually, is a T1. LE damage with attack skills. LE damage with attack skills is like one of your strongest anoints crafts you can put on everything or get on your jewelry. So you definitely want to stack that on the jewelry if you can. Obviously we can get like triple res life here. We could probably try and fix this with some harvest. We remove defense, and then we can like remove add cold to try to get that like T1, and then I don't know how we get rid of the stun. Unfortunately, it's not tagged. So, but this can easily be upgraded to like quite a nice Stygian Vise, and then we just got some life resist. I need to roll some decent jewels. I haven't rolled any good jewels this league. You probably want something like phasing on kill maybe, and then you can drop freedom of movement. But I don't have phasing anywhere else, hence why I'm using that. I don't know about maybe like a soul tether, and then you get a little bit ES, and then you maybe do the soul tether ES leech memes. A lot of people doing that on melee. I've never tried it. Maybe it's just one of those things. Maybe it's like the corrupted soul, whatever it's called, on an Inquisitor with Pious Path. You just put it on and it works, and you just become a tanky god. At least that's what happened with my Inquisitor. So maybe Soul Tether's one of those for melee. Maybe I will try it eventually. But other than that, I think this is your play here. Obviously getting an influenced one with like % increased life or something like a Hunter would be very nice as well. So if you want to get a big dick like that, I would definitely recommend. Then we're using some Dark Ray Vectors, purely because they give +1 Frenzy. And they give you some pure dodge as well per Frenzy. We have 8 at the moment. So we're getting like 40 move speed from these, and we're getting quick maths, like 12, what is it, 14 dodge. That is not quick maths, that's terrible maths. 16, right? So we're almost dodge capped on the attacks, I think, with our things up. Maybe not, we're in at 40% actually. But yeah, dodge. So if you don't know, quickly, just to explain to some maybe newbies, evade and dodge are different. You might think they're not. Like chance to evade, you evade it. You know, what's the difference? Evasion works like this. If you evade a hit, you are less likely then to evade again, and it stacks up like that. So each time you evade, you're more likely to hit and hit and hit and get hit again. to a point where you do eventually have essentially no evade, and then you get hit, and then the evasion will reset. It doesn't show up as like a number here, but that's how the mechanic works. But dodge is separate, so it sits behind that. So once that kind of goes through, eventually you don't evade a hit, but then you have a chance to dodge it. This is why like dodge and evade is so strong, and it's easy to stack and just become essentially invincible until you're not. That's the problem. Like every now and then you're just gonna get randomly one shot, but yeah. So your dodge is separate. So obviously you do all that, you go through all the evade, then they have to hit. It's like 2 lotteries, right, to get hit. So you have to go through the evade, then you have to go through the dodge, and then obviously if all those fail, and you do get hit, at least with my current setup, I'm supposed to then take like up to 40% less damage. Like I said, they don't actually sit together, I don't believe, or maybe they do. Because they're like multipliers, it should be like you take 100%. So say if you took 100 damage, you take 20% less of that, and then whatever that replies, then you take 20% less of that instead of like 40%, because they don't stack. Only increased stacks, right? That's why it's additive damage, and these are multiplicative when they're less and more. So, but maybe I'm just stupid. But that's how I read it. So, but yeah. So just so you know, that's how that works. So obviously, dodge is much stronger than evasion, because it's dodge is pure. Dodge is just a straight up. That's why it has a cap. You have a 75% cap, so you can't just get 100% dodge and then be able to dodge everything. I don't know if they think there's anything in the game that gives you max, like a max cap, like on res, where you can get it up above 75. But if you have 75% dodge and like spell hit as well, plus like a good amount of evasion, you essentially never get hit. It's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, plus obviously, like I said, with all the less damage when you do get hit, it definitely makes you feel like a bit of a god, even with like 4k life. But I think end game, I'm probably going to craft some tailwind boots, maybe some elusive boots, because they'll also give you dodge and move speed. Obviously, if you want to go massive dick, you do double, right? You do the Awakener Orb, tailwind, and evasion, elusive, and then you try to hope for some life and some move speed on there. I think going over like 9 or 10 frenzies is really not worth it if you're using the frenzy passives. And obviously these boots, I mean, you're only getting like an extra, like 10% increased move speed, or maybe 15, depending on how many frenzies you end up stacking, based on just having straight up 30 move speed permanently on your boots. Because they don't really give anything else, and they don't give life as well. And this is something this build needs, is some more life. If I was around 5k life, I don't think I would get one shot in any situation. Obviously, multiple hits would still be a problem, especially like coupled with the degen and stuff. You can definitely get tanked right down, as you saw in the clip at the start. You see my health bouncing around quite a lot, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what I'm using. Hopefully I've covered everything there. The gem links, obviously Molten Strike. I guess if I haven't spoken about this skill itself, if you don't know how Molten Strike works, essentially when you hit someone, you have a hit damage, and then you send out some balls that just land on the ground around them, and they do damage as well. The projectiles deal 50% less damage than the hit. I think it just scales like that. You get some added fire built into the gem as well nowadays. It fires 3 by default, but you can scale the projectiles as well, and you can also get the threshold gems to make them bounce and chain, but I just don't think it's necessary. It's more of a meme, to be honest. I'm just saying if I have one, I probably don't. I Varlorb them and then they always break. Oh no, I have one. So you can use one of these with at least 40 strength in the radius, so it's a threshold gem. The projectiles can chain 1 additional time, but they have 50% less projectiles, and I believe PoE rounds down. So unless this goes up to 4 max rank, you'll only be firing 1 additional. I think this must go to 4, and then you only have 2 additional projectiles. And then you essentially make them chain, and the balls, when they chain, they just bounce. It's just another bounce. So they land, then they bounce again. So you basically get some more spread. It is kind of funny, and it will look cool with like Celestial, and I might do it just for the memes. But that means then you have to use like chain instead of ancestral cool. So if you have your strikes elsewhere, you could throw this in, put chain in, and see how it feels. You might just get insane clear. I don't know. Maybe it's something I should try. I think in my mind, I'm just like, why the hell would I do that? Like, you have to invest like some extra points into getting that set up, and then having chain. I think 1 chain's probably not enough. But I guess if you can get an additional chain somewhere else for like almost free, that could be insane. That could be funny. But yeah, and then like I said, the reason why Molten Strike's so strong as well, because like you have the hit damage and then the ball damage. So on a boss, you can obviously with the hydrosphere now, you can essentially get 2 lots of balls on him. So essentially almost doubling your damage. You can see how many balls come out, right? Because we're using multi-strike as well. So the damage gets ridiculous. I think on POB with like some pretty standard boxes ticked, like just having our frenzies up and our inspiration charges up, we are doing like 1.5 million Cyrus hit damage, and then the balls say they're doing like a total DPS of like 400k, but I think that's per ball. So if you're shitting out like 20, 30 balls, which is why we're using the Dying Sun for extra proj, you're doing a lot of damage, and you can tell in the T16 map when you get that right set up, you just melt the boss. So yeah, Molten Strike, that's how it is. Obviously we're converting the rest of the damage over, so it's pretty nice. But then we're using LE damage with attacks, pretty standard. Multi-strike, so we get the insane attack speed, plus we get like the more damage per. Just remember something I do with this a lot is I cancel my autos a lot and go like this. Instead of just letting it play out, because it actually costs more mana to do that. And obviously you don't get the additional damage on the second repeat, so just make sure you're not doing what I'm doing there. Combustion, just more fire damage multiplier. It gives us some minus res as well, which is quite nice. It's basically penetration, and you kind of need this when you're leveling up, so you can proc the sword buff, because you have to ignite an enemy. Obviously at this point I could probably take this out because we're critting. If you crit with fire damage and you have nothing blocking your ailments and stuff, you will make the enemy burn, so you will proc the sword. So this is probably a dead link. Just the problem is you can't put like LE focus in here, so don't go putting LE focus in here because you can't. It blocks ailments, so you won't be able to ignite. So you can't use LE focus. I'm sure there's probably a better damage link than this in here. And what you can do eventually as well, when I talk about the totems, is put this on the totems and have them proc the minus res rather than you, and then you get another damage link there. But I can't think off the top of my head what would be better there, to be honest. Maybe close combat, because it is a sword. So in single target anyway, close combat's going to give you a lot more damage than this, for example. But yeah. Then we're using Ancestral Call. Like I said, you can get the additional strikes elsewhere. You can also use the War Cry that gives you additional strikes. We're using Enduring Cry at the moment, but I'll talk why I'm using that in a sec. Inspiration, more damage, more crit, reduced mana cost. Very, very juicy gem. That's my setup right there. Then for our auras, we're using Vitality just to neglect the degen. At 15 right now in my current setup. This is just about enough to a point where it doesn't really go down. So it's quite nice, but obviously we're very tight on mana. We've got even Enlighten here. If we put an Enlighten 4 in there, we maybe save some mana. But we've also got Anger here, which is 50% mana reservation, and a Herald of Ash. This is very nice. It gives you Fizz as extra. Very, very strong. And it also gives you like the cleave damage explosions, which is quite nice. And obviously MTX looks poggers on this, so definitely recommend that. Then in our chest, we've just got our movement skill. We've got Fortify, Leap Slam, Faster Attacks. Just make sure when you're leap slamming, you leap slam onto stuff to proc Fortify. You could also put Fortify in here instead of Combustion, so it's always up, because it is a more melee damage multiplier and it gives way more than Combustion. And like I said, you can get the Combustion effect, like the minus res, on your totems, which brings me on to my protectors. My Ancestral War Chief, make sure you get the Vaal version, because the Vaal version gives you way more increased melee damage when it's active. Obviously, there are some areas in the game where it resets your like soul count, so you can't actually proc that. But if you, just a pro tip, if you have the Ancestral Protector, which gives you more attack speed, and then the War Chief, which gives you more melee damage, and if you attach them to a multiple totem support, you can actually put both down. Whichever one you press first, you're going to get one off. So if I put 2 attack speeds down, and then I put 2 War Chiefs down, obviously the 2 just replace, but you still have double the effect. They don't stack, like 2 of these aren't giving you two times the melee damage, but they do. You do get both buffs, as you can see. So we're getting the more attack speed and we're getting the more melee damage. So whenever you come up to like a tough pack, you just put them down and you go ham. Obviously, when you have Vaal up, you basically just press your Vaal War Chiefs and the Ancestral ones. So you have the Vaal ones up with the attack speed ones, because you can't have all of them down, unfortunately. You can only have like the Vaals will put 2 down, And then when you put E, you will have 2 of these down, so you can have 4 up at one point with the Vial. But like I said, they don't stack, so you only need 1 of them up anyway. But the whole point of multiple totems just allows you to get both of them up, which is very strong. Very cool mechanic there. I think Maffle did that. That's where I got that from. And then we're using Enduring Cry. We are pathed all the way over to Call of Arms, so it's instant, and we just got it on our... We're just being a lazy boy, and we're just proccing it every time off cooldown while we're running around. The reason we're using this is because the massive regen it gives us. It's like a free health pot every, like, what is it, 8 seconds? And it also gives us some more fizz reduction, counteract the helmet, and some more all res on our endurance charges. You just need to make sure you jump into a pack and then proc it, so it might be better off putting it on an actual button rather than this, because usually when you're running around it goes off next to no one, which is a problem because you don't get the endurance charges. But for 3 endurance charges, we're getting like 15% fizz reduction just to help with that. So when we do take some damage, it's a little bit less of a biff. You can use the Infernal one, it's kind of cool. I think, where's my level gems? Infernal one's pretty cool to use. And if you proc it right in the middle of a pack, you essentially get like an exploded chest effect when it goes off. And you can also use the one that gives you additional strikes when it's procced for like a few hits. I can't remember what that one's called. There are a lot of options. I would check all the war cries. Some of them are for slams, so just make sure you don't use the ones for slams. There's also one that gives you like double damage for your next few attacks. I feel like that's kind of crap though. I don't know if it works with multi-strike, so if like a whole multi-strike cycle is in exerted. If so, that could be pretty good damage. Maybe I should try the other ones. Maybe I will at some point. But for now, we're just using the lazy boy endurance charge generation, unfortunately. So that's why we're doing that. Then we have our hydrosphere. This is basically just a 1 link. You just need that just so you can attack it. Just make sure you attack the hydrosphere when you're doing the single target, and then your ancestral call or your additional strike should be the one that's attacking the boss. You just need to make sure they're just on top of each other. And then we have a casting damage taken, a mortal call, wave of conviction. So when we take some damage, we proc a mortal call just to stop us from getting biffed. This in combination with this and stuff is really nice to help us from getting like 2 shot. And then obviously wave of conviction just minuses their res by another 25%. So usually you get hit on a boss and you hit them, and then you just be doing big damage then. So quite nice. As you can see, we still got a free 6 link. I think what I'll end up doing is moving my leap slam setup into my gloves, and then having a 6 link on the chest, purely just ancestral war chief damage. So I'll have these as 3 links, and then I'll probably throw in combustion, so we get that minus max res with like, I don't know, some LE damage with attacks and maybe a cull or something along those lines. Just give the war chiefs big damage because they actually do quite a lot of damage on their own button now. So definitely get those boys to carry you a little bit. So that's what we're using there. For our flask, obviously Dharma flask with crit, so we're just filling out that last bit of crit. Obviously at some point you could probably get crit capped with such high base crit, so you might be able to drop that. Obviously bleed immune flask there. Move speed flask, obviously if you get the double, the increased effect as well, you're going to be a very speedy boy with this current setup. Dying Sun, purely for the extra podge, it just helps clear and helps do more damage against bosses because obviously you're shitting out more balls. So definitely very good item there. You can use the Lion's Roar as well if you want. I just haven't. I would prefer to use an Evasion flask at the moment because the extra armor didn't feel better than the extra evasion, and even though you get more damage from a Lion's Roar, the knockback's annoying. There was just nothing about it I really liked, and the extra damage is just like, it's okay, you know. It's not really that necessary. If I drop some damage for some defense and I need some extra damage, maybe I'll switch back to Lion's Roar. But that is definitely a top tier for this build, a Lion's Roar. So definitely recommend if you don't hate the knockback. I hate the knockback for one, because it moves them out of your balls and stuff, and moves them out of melee range as well. It's very annoying. So our Ascendancy is obviously a Raider. The reason we're using Raider, for me anyway, was to just try the Onslaught memes. As you can see here, we get Perma Onslaught. With like more chance to evade melee and projectiles as well, with like a bunch of increased evasion effect. Here it's 108%, I think, with all the little nodes. So you're essentially almost getting, I think it's like 58% more increased attack, cast, and move speed. It's the attack speed that makes it so OP. The move speed feels really good as well. So you can just Oni-Goroshi and just kind of shit out balls everywhere. You see where the damage has come from now. Then we're taking the frenzy stuff, so we get +1 frenzy and basically free frenzy generation on everything. And then we also get a bunch of other stats. We have 8 at the moment, so you can obviously do the maths there and work out what we're getting from this node. So a lot of attack, move speed, attack speed, more evasion. So obviously once we have our frenzies up, we have a lot more evasion as well. You can go for Avatar of the Veil as well, and I think I might try at some point. If I'm going to try it, I'm probably going to drop the frenzies and go up here. It just means you have a bunch more dodge, which is way better. You have perma phasing as well, so you can just move through mobs. You also have -20 to resistances on mobs, so in single target situation when you're stood on top of the guy, you're going to do a lot more damage. You also give them 20% less accuracy, so that plus evasion just means that things were never going to hit you. And you're also immune to all ailments. That's kind of lost on us a little bit because we are almost immune to quite a lot of stuff, where we're immune to freeze, chill, ignite. We can't be stunned while this effect's on. We can also, I mean, we have freeze immune on here, but that's just in case the buff's not up. But, you know, we can pretty much cover the ailments pretty easily, so that doesn't seem as OP as it normally would if you didn't have any other ailment immunity built into the build. So, yeah. And then in terms of the tree, there's a lot of things you can do with it. You can go full left side because there's a lot of sword and melee nodes over here, or you can stay quite over here, a lot more ele damage and crit. There's a lot of crit over this side as well, actually. Or you can kind of do what I do and kind of spread it a little bit. But I think what I'm going to end up doing is cutting this top bit off here and going over for a cluster duel setup down here, or just moving fully over to this side and maybe growing up here and grabbing the Silent Life Wheel. There's not a lot of life up on this side of the tree. But at the moment, I guess the key things to note is obviously we're taking the Wind Dancer Keystone, we're taking all the ele damage and sword nodes that are worth taking, obviously all the frenzies because we're stacking frenzies, and then we'll obviously take a phase acro and acrobatics because we're dodge based. Frenzy up here, this is just a lot of life and crit up here. You can obviously still scale fizz percent, by the way. It basically scales the fizz, and then obviously all that fizz is getting converted. So it's still extremely strong to get that. So obviously this node here is very strong. And then the reason I've got point blank, this should mean that your bulls are doing 30% more damage when they pretty much do damage. At least that's how I read it. I don't know if that's maybe something that they changed when they changed the Molten Strike skill, that this doesn't work, but I don't know, maybe it's something I need to test on PoB. But that's why I've got that. So as someone could tell me below if maybe that doesn't work anymore, but back in the day that was a very strong node because obviously all the balls land right next to you anyway, so you get basically 30% more damage on your balls. And then obviously we're taking all the multi and the fire damage cluster here, some life here, and we've come all the way over here so we can use a war cry. Like I said, without this I probably wouldn't recommend using a war cry. It's a bit of a pain in the ass otherwise. But yeah, that's the tree. I think at some point, yeah, maybe we cut this top bit off here. Maybe we only go up here just for the frenzy and this like nice life bit here, and then we just cut the rest off here. We maybe get a cluster, or we go up here, grab the Silent Life Wheel, and we grab a few more nice nodes around here. But there's a lot of options here you can do. You can also put a Thread of Hope in here and grab all this life and some other nodes around here. It's really strong. There are a lot of Thread of Hopes actually that are really strong in this build. You can also go up here and grab Thread of Hope and grab these fizz conversions, and then completely drop Avatar of Fire. And then you can obviously free up your Amulet slot. That's also a play. You can also get the rest of the fizz on a max Watcher's Eye for anger. Fizz is converted. You can get 40%, so you can get 100% there. You can also get 25% on your gloves. Well, I think you can still get the 50% if you do like the double fizz convert gloves. I think that's still a thing. But yeah, there's so many options with this build, which is why I wanted to do like a quick overview with it. Like, this is just purely like what I've got going on right now. Like I said, the main thing about this is it just does insane damage. It feels really rapid, but obviously the only downside at the moment is just trying to get enough defense to be able to do like T16s comfortably. I would say a lot of the times there are a lot of map bosses and things that just one-shot you, like the Primordial Blocks guy. Unfortunately, he just one-shots me at the moment. So there are certain bosses and maps I won't do on this character at the moment until I sort that kind of defense out, get like over 5k life and get some more dodge and stuff if I'm going to keep doing the evasion stack and stuff. But yeah, there it is. I made it 45 minutes again. I don't know how I managed to drag these videos out so long. I'm trying to talk as quick as possible and move on, but clearly I just cannot help myself but over-explain everything. But hopefully, if it helps someone out there, then it's worth it, isn't it? So there is the rapid squishy ball build. That's what I'm calling it. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. If you want to see me play this game live, I do stream on Twitch pretty much every day. Also do a bit of Beat Saber memes and stuff like that as well. So come and follow and enjoy. And yeah, if you're still here, you're a legend. And remember, stay wide and stay happy. That's my motto anyway. Bye, boy.